about this. It's called a CDC. We're going to offer a word of prayer, and then I'm going to tell you what CDC is, and I'm going to introduce you to two ladies who had a fundamental uh, shape on my life. And so, if you just join me in prayer, we're so grateful that you're watching here online, all over the place. Thank you for getting back to us. Let's pray. Oh God, we thank you for this day, for this opportunity, for the beautiful sun, the way that the skies are sitting so billowy in the sky. We give you thanks. Today, we honor you for this sacred opportunity to continue to discuss the importance of what it means to have a village. Bless and consecrate this conversation in Jesus' name. Amen. Sitting to my right is Sister Diane Jordan. I call her Mama Kimya. I'm going to tell you about her in a minute. Um, Remember, I talked to you about Community Development Corporation. That is what we know is a separate 501c3. 501c3, what is that, Pastor? Glad you asked. 501c3 is a charitable organization, much like many of our churches, that has an opportunity that when you make your contributions of a monetary fashion, you're able to have what we call and what we know as a tax write-off. But here's the thing. Religious not-for-profits are different than secular not-for-profits. And so one of the things that we've established here going into our second year at New Vision United Methodist Church is working with a charitable organization called the Equity Center. The Equity Center, based out of Dayton, Ohio, is a 501c3 that provides educational services, uh, uh, workforce training, food, shelter for more than 5,000 persons a year in Dayton, Ohio. It was birthed out of the pandemic, and the advisory board for that space has decided to do some work here, and we call it the Global Village 513. This gives us an opportunity to reach out to our community to secure and procure grants that a church could not do in and of by ourselves. Because we've done that work, Sister Diane Jordan, who has a distinguished career in working in the not-for-profit sector, and she has consulted hundreds of corporations, both near and far, on issues of DEI, leadership, and organizational development, has, guess what, said yes and has accepted the role of our executive director in our Global Village 513. Go ahead and put your hands together for that. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful? She's been worshiping with us for about a year just to make sure that we are as crazy as we say we are. Somebody say amen.
Amen.
So she has been paying very close attention, and she has a sense of humor. Just now, she asked one of our favorite choir members, Les, is he a member of the Temptations? Lord have mercy. So she is not only capable, but she's also hysterical. So she's going to lead a conversation. The woman to my left has been celebrated as National Teacher of the Year. She has been celebrated by her school at Northwestern as a celebrated alum. And I have known her, and she introduced me to Diane when I was 12 or 13 years old. Her name is Kimya Moyo. Dr. Kimya Moyo is the mother of four, really five, because, okay, don't be looking at me like that. And she has a distinguished career. And today, because we are talking and been thinking about the word village, I wanted to share to our online family as well as our church family about why this word is so important in these days and times. So I've asked really the extensions of my soul, my heart, both Dr. Kimya and Miss Diane, to have a conversation about the word village. And from there, We're just going to think about what it means in these days and times when the world seems so fragmented. I'm going to do me a favor. Sit here, sit in the middle. She's going to sit in the middle. And at some point, we might even convince them to talk about how they know each other, but we'll talk about that later. Go ahead, Mama Debbie.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to set the context a little bit about Cincinnati. Why are we even talking about Cincinnati as a Global Village 513? Cincinnati is the hub that's anchored by Fortune 500 companies like Kroger and Procter& and Gamble. Over 200 organizations are headquartered here, and we have 52 diverse neighborhoods that are home to multi-generational residents, immigrants, refugees, and expatriates. People of great wealth and great poverty work, live, worship, and often play side by side, while Cincinnati blends tradition and commerce along the Ohio River. The zip code 45229, where New Vision United Methodist Church sits, is one of the most diverse, as Pastor just said, and also one of the most under-resourced zip codes in our Hamilton County. So today we're going to unpack what it means to imagine a Cincinnati Global Village 513. So I'm joined by Dr. Kimya Moyo. And Kimya, I will just start my question with you.
While you're on the panel, that means you're going to get some questions, right? Why are you surprised when the panel person says you're going to ask you a question? I don't understand.
So, given your immense experience internationally and locally, what is the village?
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon.
Here you go. Here you go.
Good afternoon. Okay. Uh, First of all, when we say the word village, we have to recognize that really in our DNA is African Americans. That's all we really know. Because in Africa, everyone lived in a village. It was no child who was ever homeless, unhoused. There were no people who were never unfed. Nobody went hungry. Nobody had a need for clothes. We had everything we needed because we were all together in a what they call village, which is nothing more than a set of people who have similar values, operate under the same value system. And when you operate under the same value system, then I can almost say what your next sentence is going to be. I know that much about you because we are village partners. When we talk about the village, we are saying that when we got through our history and all the horrific things that have happened to us throughout history, one of the strategies that was used to separate us and divide us was to break up the village and erase that whole concept of what is in our head about what a village is. And they did that very successfully because we don't have those kinds of villages anymore. And given what we are going through currently, one of our requirements for getting up out of this mess is to redefine and reestablish ourselves as being part of a village. So we want to look at all of Cincinnati as you start, you start out as a village. We can But we can also start very, very small with our own families and our neighbors. We don't know our neighbors. You know what I'm saying? We don't know our neighbors. And I remember when I was growing up on Last Avenue, when I was growing up, the lady next door, Terry's mom, she watched after me. When my grandmother, great grandmother who was living with us, got sick, it was Terry's mother who came over and helped and knew that she was sick. That's a village. You know what I'm saying? We don't know our neighbors' names today, let alone what's going on inside the house. I'm not saying we got to get in everybody's business like that, but I need to be in your business on some level.
Yeah.
I need to know something about you. If we could understand the power of a village, all this other stuff that's going on, redistricting, the whole 9 yards, wouldn't even be an issue for us. We'd be sitting back saying, we're going to do whatever you want to do, because we got a village that knows how to respond. Now, I don't know if that answers your question about what a village was, but because of the village, the pastor ended up at my house
Lord,
once a week.
she's being kind. The truth is, I was failing math, and I was the basketball player that needed to keep his grades up. So I ended up taking over the house and eating all the food. And go ahead,
And drinking all my tea.
and drinking all the tea. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So I have known him ever since he was, I don't know, was it ninth grade, eighth grade? Eighth grade in high school at Seven Hills. And we sort of kept that relationship even after he graduated and went to Denison and did all the other things that he did. We sort of never lost contact because I think what he found at my house was a village, because the village spread out. He didn't just know my family and claim my children as his brothers and sisters, but he was there for every other kind of activity, which made him exposed to the power of a village. And that's when he met Mama Timmy. And in a village, if we are to understand the true nature of a village, I'm not Dr. Moyo. I'm Mama Kimya. And that's what he grew up understanding and knowing me as Mama Kimya. And in Africa, the word mama or baba for father meant just that, that you could come to me to get whatever you may need, that you could come to the men to get whatever you may need. And so that concept in itself is special. At school that I teach at, some people will come into the school and say, hey, Mama Kimya, but the students are afraid to say Mama Kimya because of the indoctrination that they have had through their school to know and think that mama is not appropriate for a teacher. They fall back into Dr. Moyo, which is cool because if it gives me respect, whatever, but mama needs to give the respect. That type give the respect.
Did you have anything you wanted to say about what is and maybe what it looks like?
For me, the village is um, it's a space um, where love is felt without being articulated, where kindness and patience are experienced without it having been written down. And it's also
And I had to have some patience too. And
see, Miss Bridget, do you see where this is going? Do you see, Miss Bridget, where this is going? No, but I think part and parcel of what I know to be true about the village is I was a underperforming student. I was an underperforming student. See, that's the village. Uh, she would have never done that for me. I was an underperforming student that uh, was not only going there because I was getting help at school, Sister Beverly, but she ended up investing uh, time, talent, and money to make sure that my life was more than my grades. Right? Can
And
you
that you were more than your grades.
and that the notion of imagine having a woman that had multiple children taking time out of their schedule to continue to invest and I do want to say in a nice way, indoctrinate me into a way of being responsible for more than just myself. And so Mama Thimby, you all know her, Sister Diane, my African name I received from the village being in the space. It was a big deal to myself. I didn't know about it when it came to me. And all of the ups and downs that we experienced together. I'll give you an example, then I'll go to the question. I remember that when I met Pam, Pam and I were courting, and Pam loves to this day, she loves to go for walks. So we were walking one day in North Avondale. And can you imagine this marriage here? I had a head full of hair. I had hair all over my head. And we walked past Mama Kimya's house and we waited and stopped. And Mama Kimya hit me on my head. I sat down there and she braided my hair in front of this woman she had never met before. And Pam said, "Oh, that's what Mama wants." Because Pam had never seen me so quiet, so humble, and so willing to be a part and intervention in someone else's life. So that kind of understated family that transcends blood, for me, that's what a village feels like.
And let me just say one other thing. Um, One of the things I said about a village is that there's a certain value system that everybody in the village attributes to. And I thought of this morning, uh, Pastor, when you were speaking.
Oh my God, you've never been
Yeah,
past
now
what's going
I
on.
see that.
Can we just stop the tape? She is 30 years. She's never called me pastor. Let's just stop it, right? So good.
One of the things about values is that in the villages that I have been part of, and I've been part of many, one of the values is work. And he spoke about that this morning, and I just wanted what came immediately to my mind when I was in Chicago, in my Chicago village. And I was part of the school in Chicago. One of the things that we always said was, Kazi is the blackest of them all. Kazi is the blackest of them all. Kazi means work and is the blackest of them all. And within the national Pan-African community back in the 60s and 70s, that was the value that we had. Don't come up in here just playing around. It's about kazi. Kazi is a Kiswahili word that means work. And every day it was about kazi. Kazi is the blackest. The most important thing you can do is kazi.
Well, and I think about it, and Mama Kimby's laughing because she knows me and Mama Kimby can talk forever. It's about the accountability that comes with this too. Beverly, I was in my early 20s, and I was somewhere. I had a business meeting, and at about 8:30 at evening, I was somewhere. I had no business meeting in my early 20s. I got a phone call on the cell phone, and it was Mama Kimby. She says, "I don't know where you are, but my spirit says you are someplace you ain't got no business being. I don't know where you are, but my spirit says you are someplace you ain't got no business being. Do you hear me?" My African name is Kojo. "Do you hear me, Kojo? Do you hear me?" And hung up. I will never forget that.
And in the very true African sense, um, everybody is, all women are mamas, all men are babas, because they have a responsibility toward not child support, which is how we think about it today in America. But they have a responsibility to make that phone call and to say something and check, we say the vernacular, check somebody's behavior, and you're not going to get any lip back. Nor is that person's actual parent, blood parent, going to call and say, "Why did you say that to my child?" So those are other examples of what it looks like to be in a village, because there's a collective responsibility for the rearing of all the children. So I want to move on to another question. What are some of the most common? You ask. I'm gonna point to him next.
Just for the record, they best. Y'all have to- Go ahead.
What are some of the most common misconceptions that people could have about the concept of a global village in 513? And how many of those misconceptions do you believe are necessary to be addressed? Sometimes they are just noise. But what are the misconceptions that you believe to be addressed in order to have this global village 513 that is the vision of a pastor? And I'll start with you, Pastor.
Yeah, so I think part of the thing, some of the misconceptions is that we are celebrating one culture over and above another. I think that one of the things about the principles of Ubuntu and what I've learned from you and Mama Kimya is that I am so um, rooted in my own cultural identity that I can celebrate someone else in the same way. I'm looking at Tracy uh, and um, Dean that are here with us today. But I remember when I was a pastor in Salem Park, I did Tracy's father's funeral. And as crazy as a Republican as he was, we used to love each other and laugh while drinking Dewar's. And we had a wonderful time. He respected not just my identity, but my thought processes and my African-centered nature. And because of that, he grew as a result. I think one of the things that we don't want to think about here is that we're celebrating one culture over against each other. I think what we have to think about doing is how do we affirm everyone's not just their right to exist, but the strengths that come as a result of their cultural upbringing. I think what I'm excited about this is that having been, I want to say raised or reared in African-centered, not just thought practices, it gives me a depth of understanding of what kind of all humanity. And as a result, I'm getting to tell you, I've called people from Africa, from Europe, from New Zealand. Like we've talked all over the world because I've been anchored in such a belief. And the prayer I have from the vision is that this space becomes a place where all of the cultures that are around the world can have a sense of being not just tolerated, but also celebrated.
So it seems like we're talking about moving from me
Yes,
or I
absolutely.
to me.
Absolutely.
What does it take to do that? How hard is it to do that? And what does it take to do that? Kim?
It's you got it's it's difficult because we have all been ingrained in this individual society, and that's all we know. It's about going to school and I'm the valedictorian. I'm the best student in the class. Me, let me answer, as opposed to working together. I mean, the values in a school are not even collective values. You sit at your desk and you do your work and you shut up, as opposed to moving more toward collective group work. They're doing that more in the schools now. But underneath all that is this individual root that just keeps popping up. So it's very difficult. So I think that one of the things that helped me when I was in Chicago and was first exposed to a village was the fact that I recognized a need that this village was providing. And part of that need was a collective purpose. This purpose, what are we doing here? Why are we here? Why are we all together? What is it that we need to be doing? And that accountability. I mean, one of the things that happened in the village that I was subjected to in Chicago was a change of diet. That was hard. That was hard. I was moving from being a
Carnivore.
carnivore to a vegetarian. And the thing that helped was everybody was trying to become a vegetarian at the same time. So I'm watching what you brought for lunch, and they watching what I brought for lunch. And are we gonna be cheating or what? But it became a joyous kind of experience because what you got? Oh, how'd you make that? And we learned from one another, as well as we were gaining help. You know what I'm saying? So if the values, if that common value system is present in everybody, and somebody sees a need that the village can provide for them, then the values, the collectivism becomes contagious. And that's when it becomes easy.
So, Pastor, I wanted to ask you, I mean, because you have been preaching about the village. There's a sleep in the program today that really even breaks it down um, at a young person's ability to understand it. What are some of the indicators that you are looking for that tell you, oh, I think I'm hitting it. Oh, I think they're getting it. What kind of feedback are you looking for or changes that you would like to see within the congregation or in just the way we operate and move?
I, obviously, you would like for people to be more involved in volunteer efforts. You'd like to see people more in the Bible study. You'd like to see more people using our walking track, et cetera, et cetera. I think the initial indicators is that people are nice. That we want our church people here at Vision to go the next mile. Are you holding the door for somebody? Uh, are you the please and thank you? I'm always watching, particularly with young men, how they are working in around their elders. Are you looking people in the eye when they're talking to you? Are you saying yes, sir? No, ma'am? Those basic qualities are very, very important to me because we have been fostered in this hyper independence where, and I'm guilty of this too, is that, we're addicted to these things called not smartphones, but dumb phones that really kind of segment us off from being in communication with each other. And I think that's done intentionally. But at the same time, I think what we want here at New Vision is a collective joy. Like people are coming to church with the anticipation that something not only happening to us uh, as a result that spreads to me. Like today, I loved it. I love the fact that someone was out in the spirit while the choir was singing, while the parents were reading birthdays. Like to have the ability to be open to accept that people are experiencing just this abundance of love of God. And I think a lot of things that happen in the church, man, is happens as a result of scarcity. I like it when people are mindful that we serve a God of abundance. And I'm beginning to see evidence of that now. Not just because people are starting to give more and you're starting to see more and more people come to church, but there's a sense of everything I have belongs to him. And as a result of that, it's we, not I. But that's a hard thing to convince because you watch social television, get your blessing, get yours, get yours, get yours, get yours. You see the president saying get yours, get yours, get yours. So the notion of the collective is very, very apparent. Yeah. And everybody has a role. I'm singling out, and I think I do a commonality in time. Um, Miss Daphne Robinson is here. Miss Daphne used to, she was a longtime church musician. But every Sunday at 9:30 for a half an hour, Miss Daphne, under the lights that get low, prepared the worship service with some songs that were celebrated in our church's history because we are mindful that we're not simply reaching toward the future without reaching back. We are trying to embody the word that I learned from you and Mama Kimya, which is saying hopeful. Thank you, Miss Daphne. I know you got a question. We don't need to ask you, Miss Daphne. You got a question, Miss Daphne. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I grew up when in a time when it was common for people to live in a village. Uh, and I used to live with third after where you live across the street from me. And she could go share with that. That little half block that we lived in back then, people were like villages. The children grew up playing with each other, going to school together, and it's changed now. And that's a shame to see that. But, there are about five or six neighbors on each side of the street, because I lived across the street from her, and houses, one of those houses that was way up on the hill, and we're neighborly, few houses, and it's sad to see that kind of thing change.
Yes. And her husband would always be coming across the street to talk to me. Your husband would always be coming across the street to talk to me. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, so this is what I'm saying, even about Cincinnati, right? So the wonderful church mother who plays for us for half an hour is not only part of this village, but she's also connected to the village that she was with Dr. Kimya, however many years ago, for a long time. I had no idea that while I was getting algebra help that Miss Daphne was across the street. You know what I mean? It's just like the village, the interconnected ways that we live our lives is a celebration of that. And I think that we have to do a better job. We have to slow down and point it out. I think people are moving so fast that we have to slow down and point it out. Today we asked Tracy to come up front, not to embarrass her, but to let people know that there is this multiracial African, there's this thing that's happening in the universe that if we give it an opportunity, that people from all walks of life will want to be a part of that. And I think that it's profoundly African and it's profoundly American at the same time.
There's a question back here. Wait till she gets the microphone.
My name is Ellen Chanel, and I just got a quick question. I just want to know what the church is doing for as a whole to help the community when it comes to resources like rent and utilities. Do we got anything set aside for those type of things to help the community?
I appreciate that. And I will talk about that quickly. Here's the thing that we know to be true. We are a church of about 80 to 85 regular giving units. That means about 80 to 85 people in this church give on a monthly basis. Let me just say it quickly. And now we've added an online component where more people are giving online. This church that has six acres of land and including a parsonage, in those 6 acres of land, 80 people in online have to generate about $30,000 a month just to stay open. So our band is strapped. But here's the thing that just happened. There's a member of the church that wants to donate $50,000 for that purpose. But the only way we can do that with any integrity is to give that money to our denomination's foundation. And from that interest, we should have about $500 or $600 a month, probably by the fall, that can be able to go through some of that stuff. But as it stands now, we are doing the best we can just to stay open, right? But because of people that have articulated that need, we say we know we're doing all these services, and lo and behold, the village says, someone stands up in the village and says, there's a need, I'd like to address it. But what I want to do is make sure that it's addressed in decency and in order. So be on the lookout for that and tell all your friends about it. Thank you for asking that question.
One thing I wanted to share, my driveway abuts neighbor's driveway. And I've been in my house 28 years. They were there when I moved in. They're Eritrean. They are Eritrean. And so we don't eat the same foods. But when she learned that I had knee surgery, she came over and brought me some vegetables. She brought me some soup, pea soup, I think. Um, and then she just had knee surgery. And I went over to, I loaned her my ice machine. That anybody who had any of those kind of joint surgeries, you got to have that ice machine running for 2 months. And I loaned her that and gave her some guidance about how I got through it. And so that's just neighborly, but it's also a village because we're supporting each other in ways that both of the ways that we support are very much needed by each of us. And she always says, I'm so happy you're my neighbor. And I give it back to her. So sometimes you don't have to go far, just right next door and talk about what you need because nobody knows how to help you if they don't know what you need.
I was so close to our neighbor when we lived in Glendale. He took me to my first Ohio State football game. White man named Ed. We were just thick as thieves. And they were moving and no one would buy their house. And Pam didn't understand it wasn't selling. Well, finally, Pam, I was hiding the for sale sign in the garage because I didn't want Ed to leave. That's how close we were. I didn't want Ed to leave, Connie. So I moved the for sale sign because I didn't want him to leave. So, like, those kinds of neighbors are very, very important. You're absolutely correct.
Let me just also say, when my daughter was killed in the car accident, the day of the funeral, who comes, just walks in the house and takes care of the house while we're all at the funeral? Miss Daphne.
Wow. Neighbors.
Without that, we didn't ask her.
She knew it needed to be done.
That's again, need
That's right.
fulfilled.
Yeah.
And that's the village.
And it's something that's organic. That's what I was talking about today in church, at the village to respond without having to be asked.
So I want to start with another question. How long do we have? Okay. I have another question. So what do you think is needed to put some of these ideas to action as a body? Having this conversation obviously is one, so people can learn more about what it is. But what are some things that we can actually do so that we can all begin to see, oh, it's coming to fruition?
I just want to say one thing. We've got to get, as you keep saying, more people aware of New Vision and what New Vision purports to do, which includes this 583 Global Village. And whatever, I think like calibration is a good beginning point, to make people aware of something that happens at New Vision. But they need to see the vision. They need to be made aware of the vision. And I'm not sure, you've got an excellent tech department. Maybe we need some kind of short, I don't want to say advertisement, but a short treatise on what New Vision sees needs to happen. Because you're not just talking about New Vision. If this would become a reality, like all those churches you talked about on this Reading Road strip, can't just be on the strip with this happening. So everybody needs to be made aware of this.
And I think, I like alliteration. So I think as you're talking about what needs to happen, there's a couple things. Those churches that we mentioned on Reading Road used to be packed. Half of those churches I mentioned now are closed. So the first thing that we need to think about is capacity. When I talk about the building of capacity, if 300 people came here next week, we wouldn't know what to do. Our ushers would quit. They would quit because if people were arguing with my administrator, she would quit because so we really have to think about capacity. Like, how do we educate people boring things to get accustomed to getting used to that. The second thing is consistency. That oftentimes what I've learned from Mom Kim is that if you want to get good at something, you got to do it more than once. You got to keep showing up. So even if there are 5 people here, how do we keep doing that after we go? And then the thing I think that church people um, fall victim to a lot of times is that we don't have any compassion. The people that are coming in here in 2026, they're going to look different. They're going to smell different. They're going to come from different walks and stages of life. And we have to have a spirit of compassion that embraces them immediately. You know how little children, uh, baby come to you and some baby fussy, and they say, "Oh, don't worry, that baby's just fussy." No, that baby don't like you, right? That baby is young enough not to deal with the foolishness and can sense. There's something Kimya taught me called heart math. There's a math inside someone's heart that they can tell immediately if you're authentic or not. And so we want to build up a heart math that when people from different walks of life come in, immediately they feel like, wow, this is a place I want to be. I want to come back to this place. So capacity, uh, consistency, and compassion.
So I've been coming to the vision a year, as Pastor said, and he's been talking about this Global Village 503 all the time. What happens if we don't do this? What happens in the city of Cincinnati? What happens to New Vision members? What happens if this concept fails? If this vision fails?
I'm going to talk about specifically, and Mama can talk about it as well. Here's specific. I have been asked and given the opportunity to be in Hamilton County's Tax Levy Review Committee. The Tax Levy Review Committee of Hamilton County, there are 9 people that help sit and have conversations about 370 some odd million dollars of what shaped uh, relative to our taxes. Mama Kimya and Mama Debbie get nervous about this because that might mean they have to pay more on their property taxes. That's another conversation for another day.
Which we talked to Greg Lansford about already.
Yeah, but what those taxes are for, particularly this year, is to help 3,000 young people who don't have anything. And if the levy doesn't pass this year, Job and Family Services might go bankrupt. And what we want to do with the Global Village 503 is to be a support system for thousands of young people in their families that don't have anything. And we do that by not only the United Methodist Food Ministry that feeds 10,000 some odd kids. It's not just by the Heavenly Daycare Center. It's not just by what we do with Ebenezer Healthcare Access. Because we give them an under market rate space to have those services, they have an opportunity to serve thousands. And so we don't do what we need to do here relative to providing resources and relationships. Thousands of people will not be served that absolutely need it. And so one of the things we want to do is help close the gap on the people who don't get served. One of the things that you all laugh about this, and I got my lay leader here, and she'll roll her eyes and smile. I've already been talking to people at Project Connect, and I got to talk to my trustee about it. You know that there are 3,000 children, Beverly, in the city of Cincinnati who experience homelessness every single night. And I want to have part of the parking lot be for them so they can have their cars, at least that their parents can have a place that they can experience homelessness in a safe place. And all that money for that restaurant that I want them across the street should be feeding these babies. Now, when I said that to her yesterday, She said, "Oh, Pastor, we cannot have a homeless shelter in the parking lot." But I'm just
I
saying, like,
did.
if we don't get like some of just the basic things, that there are all these young people that don't have a village. And I'm saying I went to this fancy private school, and still, if it wasn't for my village, I wouldn't have got out of high school. I wouldn't have went to college. I wouldn't have went to graduate school. So if I, at this fancy private school, got help, what is it that we're doing to provide help? So if it doesn't happen, perhaps there'll be other people that do it in spaces and parts. But if it doesn't happen, there will be thousands of young people that are not able to reach their potential in real time. I believe that was on my part.
And there's a public school that's already doing that with their
Absolutely.
parking lot.
Absolutely.
But one of the things that I think is critical is vision. It's part of your name.
Absolutely.
And if people don't have vision, it will fail.
Absolutely.
But the vision is what keeps us going. It's what keeps us coming back week after week after week. We have to have vision. We have to have patience, patience with one another, because everybody won't have that same vision. They're not going to see it the same way that Pete sees it. But if they can just get a glimpse of it, it's something that they can work toward. When I was in Chicago, we started the Institute of Positive Education, New Concept Development Center. We just had our own children in the school. But because what we did took Kazi and did it good, next thing you knew, the next year, we had twice that many. And the next year, 3 times as many. And what we were doing on the south side of Chicago was being done on the west side of Chicago also. So it was like we validated one another. But the vision, the patience, and the perseverance of everybody, not just the pastor, but everybody has to have that. And everybody has to have a role to play, because there are roles that everybody plays. I'm not the systems organizer. I'm staying away from that, but I teach your kids some algebra if that's what's necessary. So everybody stay in their lane, stay out of other people's business, and do what they do well, and keep that vision.
No.
Are
Yeah.
there any other questions from the
Anybody got questions, thoughts, concerns?
She's
So what Ms. Daphne is saying for our online audience is that the name New Vision means a lot to her because her husband was one of the principal people to name the church.
Well, we all had an opportunity to build a committee, and he was the one that came up with the name and vision.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
awesome.
sure.
What does Ashe mean? And so be it. Kimmy was using a Swahili name, Ashe, in response to what you just said. Some people said me, amen, but she just said it, and so be it. Another question or comment?
There's a lot of people here.
There's a lot. There are a lot of stuff.
I'm old, obviously, I'm very old, and yet I feel the love because there's so many people who are willing to help me. I have the same experience in my sorority chapter. I had a meeting yesterday. I never go in and out of that meeting without people wanting to help me physically or spiritually, whatever. So there's a lot of love in the church. We just need to show it.
There's a lot like that. You hear that, Miss Martin? There's a lot of love in this church. We just need to show it. I appreciate that. You know, I think part and parcel of what we're getting on about is sometimes my wife says this too. She says, you know, people don't think that you're real. She says, you know, you show up, you're so nice. It doesn't seem real to a lot of people because we are surrounded by so much venom and people not just inauthentic, but you know, there's a lot of mean spirited people. And I think that one of the things that will be very helpful for us is to continue to show up as God made us to be. And I think that's a force multiplier. Because there are people, when I'm on my walks now, I'm taking, walking 3 miles a day. On these walks, we find people that I'm waving at that I haven't seen in forever, that people don't know you're in time. How do you begin to have that kind of fervent and effective spirit that kind of catches fire with people, so people can know that this is a real place for real people.
So one thing I wanted, as we begin to, Pastor, I have heard you repeatedly talk about all welcome. Can you share how easy and or difficult it is to have a place where all are welcome, or even a village where everybody is accepted? Do we exclude somebody from the village or not? How do we bring this idea of inclusion and belonging um, to a manifestation within the village?
Are you a DEI trainer? You said that very well. Do you do diversity?
I do.
And you do training? You said that very well.
I got to get the inclusion part in there.
And then Kimya go off on that. Here's the thing I know to be true. Um, Historically speaking, the African American church was a place of refuge from harsh realities of prejudice, racism, and things of that nature. And it was a place of solace and where people could feel dignity, collective economics, scholarships, and things of that nature. But as you think about what does it mean to be a church, not just a black church, but a church in 2026, for me, not just because it makes sense out of my context of my studying, I have a very sincere and devout principles and values systems of how I see the Gospels. But at the same time, my life has been opened up to the world, and the world has opened itself up to me. It hasn't always been friendly, but I want to make sure that the same way I've been embraced by the world, that I can be a pastor of a church that wants to hold the world that holds me. And that's not always easy because we have people that hold on to vestiges of what used to be. But I'm saying for the church not just to be vital, but to also be open. It has to hold itself open for everybody. Now, this man will tell you here, I don't believe. So we've had issues of sexual harassment. We've had issues of a lot of difficult conversations here. And I don't run away from difficult conversations. I run in the direction of those conversations. It doesn't mean that open means unaccountable. So I want to make sure that we are in a place that values and celebrates people from all walks of life. But look at her face. I learned from her. We don't play to take no mess, right? We don't take no mess at the same time.
So I think what we should be doing is every couple weeks, at least once a month, having something here that has those difficult, courageous conversations, that exposes new vision, that displays the vision that you're having, so that we get more and more people aware of what's going on here, to the point of saying, I got to be a part of that. It's got to be something that's drawing them in, that they see a need for, and that can't just walk away from it. That they got to say, I want to be part of this. I want my name in on that line. I want to do this. And I think it can be done.
Absolutely.
I think it can be done. It's just, again, we have to slow down. We can't be so fast that we keep tripping and making a whole bunch of mistakes. We got to do it right. And we got to do it consistently. And we have to be authentic about it.
I think as you're saying that, Kimya, the opportunity to have people share what's working for them. What did they do? What did they try? It worked, it didn't work? How can I learn from it? Because most people don't want to make a mistake because it shows their vulnerability. It shows they can't do something. Can we make this a space where we can make a mistake and we can learn as we go? Learning as we go is so critical to try to do something different because this is a change. And, you know, I do that work in the marketplace, but one of my favorite quotes is nobody likes change but a wet baby. How can we make the experience of going through change comfortable, as hard as it is, and then the village supports the learning and the growth?
I appreciate that because the change that we're talking about is not just the folk outside that are changing, the congregation that's changing. I'm changing as a result of it too. You know, when you think about how you order your days, your months, you know, there are weeks, time periods, you know, getting more sleep, like all of those things add up to being that which you aspire to and dream for. So it's not just I'm asking or wanting the village to be a change agent for here outside of me. I need the village for myself because I want to change and be more what God wants me to be too. I need a village in my own life. You know, so on Monday nights when we have our man thing, when we have men having conversations, it is a powerful and cleansing opportunity for men from all walks of life to share in very unique and powerful ways. When our sisters share on Thursday nights online, that is an opportunity for them to share in unique and powerful ways. We're getting a Narcotics Anonymous that comes back here. We have circles of people that need this space as a conduit. And I believe that the same grace that holds me can hold any kind of struggle or personal failure or whatever it may be. Um, that's hope. I hope for that, not just for the church. I hope for that for myself, because I know I still got a lot of changes to do myself. So I want the village to be able to hold me and I think that you're right about that. I think that we sometimes lambast people, particularly public people, as they're changing and evolving and emerging in such a way. Like Dean said, the important thing that Dean said today, he said, it's one thing to hear you. He said, but I see you as a person, I just know that there's something that I've got to be about and want to be. And I think that's what happens when you experience that in real time. So. Ladies, this is not on the script, but you all have had a definitive and distinct impression on my heart and soul. I have literally seen the world because you all continued to pray for me when I wasn't able to pray for myself. And so on behalf of my heart, the heart of my family, the heart of this church, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out now and going forward. Can we give them a round of applause? Could you please, the Gospel Temptation clap the loudest? Did you see that? The Gospel Temptation clap the
You
loudest.
should watch him when he's up there singing.
He has a good time. We
He's
have,
stepping like the Temptations. I'm sorry.
no, you want to close out? Go ahead. You want to say something before we close out? See, I've been used to them acting like I know what I'm talking about, so I'm just going to close this thing out. We love you all, and we'll see you next month. Thank you. Some things over here, please. Can we get Marty, Ron, and Ken? I was trying to do so much. It's the button in the middle. Lord.